Roll over! Roll over now!
Even mine not flat. Even mine not flat.
Not pulling.
I fucking want. I know it's the
On a mild Friday evening in early summer, the streets of Stevens Point, Wisconsin were settling into their usual weekend rhythm. Bars were filling, restaurants were busy, and the day's last traces of sunlight were fading. But at 8:44 p.m. on June 7th, 2024, a call came in to the Stevens Point Police Department that would turn a quiet night into a volatile,
He's not stopping. We're going to be going northbound on Church Street.
drawn-out encounter no officer on duty would soon forget. The report was straightforward at first. A road rage incident near West Clark Street and Water Creek.
Stop right there! Show me up, Carl.
A white male driving a green pickup truck had allegedly swung a hammer at the driver of a trailer during a confrontation. By the time officers arrived at the scene, the suspect was already gone. Witness descriptions matched a familiar vehicle that had been spotted in the area before, and it wasn't long before a sergeant patrolling near the West Clark Street Bridge caught sight of it. He fell in behind the truck, radioing for backup. The suspect, later identified as 36-year-old Keith, appeared unaware at first, or perhaps unconcerned, that law enforcement was tailing him. 2 more patrol units moved into position, but before they could make a quiet, controlled stop, the situation changed. Keith suddenly hit the gas, accelerating away. The sergeant activated his emergency lights and initiated a traffic stop.
We're stopped at Heffron right now.
Keith ignored it, continuing northbound on Church Street, then onto Heffron Street. Officers kept their distance, broadcasting their location to dispatch. Moments later, the green pickup slowed and finally came to a stop. That should have been the end of the pursuit. Instead, it was only the beginning. Officers exited their vehicles, weapons at the ready, issuing sharp, clear commands. "Stop right there! Show me your hands!"
Now, Iris, stop initiated. Stop right there, you little bit! Stop right there! Show me up, Carl.
But Keith didn't comply. He stepped toward the sergeant, fists clenched, closing the distance despite repeated orders to halt. In that tense instant, with no sign he was going to stop, the sergeant deployed his taser. The electric crackle filled the night air as Keith fell to the ground. Even then, it took several more commands to get him to roll onto his stomach so they could secure him in handcuffs. Once restrained, Keith's mouth went into overdrive. His first words were not explanations or apologies, but accusations.
Roll over!
mine not flat.
Roll over now!
Even mine not flat. Even mine not flat.
Not pulling.
I fucking want. I know it's the lie.
40 count, 1 male, 95.
"I know it's a setup," he said over and over as though repeating it made it true. He claimed the night's events were orchestrated against him, referencing vague prior incidents that he believed were part of the same plot. At times, his words tumbled into near nonsense, alleging the officers were wrapped in wires and trying to frame him. The officers brought him to a nearby gas station to regroup and begin processing the arrest. His speech was slurred, and the heavy smell of alcohol was unmistakable. Searching his truck, they found a bottle of Canadian Mist whiskey on the passenger side.
Oh yeah! Canadian Mist, baby!
The sergeant also noted the absence of an ignition interlock device, a court-ordered requirement for Keith due to past driving offenses. Despite the evidence stacking against him, Keith continued to rail against the officers. "Crooked," he repeated like a mantra. "Hopefully you lose your jobs." He accused them of being corrupt, citing YouTube videos as proof. The officers, accustomed to angry detainees, kept their composure. Inside the patrol car, Keith shifted briefly from insult to justification. He demanded to know why he had been pulled over. The explanation that they had been called about his hammer-wielding behavior and that he had failed to stop did not satisfy him. He claimed people had been following him, and he was merely standing up for himself. When one officer reminded him that he had charged at the sergeant, Keith minimized the action, insisting he wasn't trying to hurt anyone. As they waited, emergency medical personnel arrived. Officers were concerned that during the scuffle, Keith might have hit his head on the pavement.
You can take it to court and you can file.
Oh, I will. I will. But I mean, that's your livelihood. Yeah, you want to live your life? You want to do that? That's fine to you.
And soon,
They offered him a hospital visit. At first, he declined. Then one officer began reading Wisconsin's implied consent notice, a legal requirement in suspected OWI cases.
arrive at the hospital.
You want to get fired from your job? Oh, I bet you will.
The form explained that drivers arrested for operating while intoxicated must submit to a chemical test, here a blood draw, to measure their level of impairment. Keith refused without hesitation, calling the test another part of the setup. Then, in a rare moment of clarity, his tone softened. He told the officers he was sorry for how things had gone. He explained that he had been trying to get housing but had been turned away repeatedly. The apology, however, was fleeting. Minutes later, he was back to making predictions that the officers would lose their jobs and everything. As they began transporting him to the hospital for a precautionary medical clearance, his comments took a darker turn. "You could lose your job and your family," he told one officer. "You messed with the wrong person." He began implying that the officer might end up in a coma. When pressed if that was a threat, Keith dodged. "Just watch," he said, refusing to explain. The officer warned him that threatening law enforcement could bring new charges. Keith was unmoved. "It's all about who you know," he replied dismissively. At the hospital, Keith's hostility dulled slightly. The officer acknowledged that, aside from his verbal outbursts, Keith had been cooperative in terms of following physical instructions. He asked Keith to maintain that behavior inside. Keith agreed, saying his issues were with one specific officer, not the whole department.
Come on.
This is my problem.
Okay, knock it off.
I'm not now.
I'll add another charge for threats to law enforcement.
Oh, okay. It's all about who you know.
Let me know what.
All right, Keith, this is what we're gonna do.
Hey, I
Okay,
can.
let me talk,
I
okay?
can walk.
Well, you're cuffed, you fell. We're
You-
gonna sit you in a
you-
wheelchair and we're gonna wheel you in, okay?
You've been pretty straight.
I have been.
After a quick medical exam confirmed he was fit for custody, they transported him without further incident to Portage County Jail. In the end, the original road rage victim chose not to press charges over the hammer incident. But Keith's night still resulted in a heavy stack of legal trouble. He was booked on felony fleeing or eluding an officer, plus several misdemeanors. Operating while intoxicated, third offense, resisting or obstructing an officer, tampering with an ignition interlock device, and operating while revoked. His bond was set at $1,500, and traffic citations added another $1,200 in penalties. Toxicology results later confirmed what officers suspected. His blood alcohol concentration was well above Wisconsin's legal limit of 0.08%. His refusal to provide a chemical test also counted against him under the state's implied consent law. Months later, on October 9th, 2024, Keith entered no contest pleas to operating while intoxicated, resisting or obstructing, and operating while revoked. Other charges were dismissed as part of a plea agreement, but were read into the record. The judge sentenced him to 3 years of probation, with conditions designed to keep him away from alcohol and the driver's seat. He was prohibited from possessing or consuming alcohol, banned from entering bars or liquor stores, forbidden from driving without a valid license, and required to obtain and maintain full-time employment. For the Stevens Point officers, the incident was a reminder that no traffic stop is ever truly routine. A call about a hammer-wielding driver turned into a high-risk stop, a foot-dragging arrest and a long ride filled with verbal taunts, conspiracy claims, and thinly veiled threats. For Keith, it was the latest in a line of legal problems, one that left him with a criminal record, court supervision, and a strict set of rules for the next 3 years. It was a night that began with a bottle of whiskey in the front seat of a green pickup and ended in a jail cell. An unpredictable, messy sequence of events that will likely be remembered by everyone who was there. And that wraps up the chaotic night that turned a routine traffic stop into a full-blown standoff of words, threats, and conspiracy claims. If you found this breakdown interesting, hit that like and make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.